What's up guys, Asian here, and I'm sure at this point you guys have noticed that there have been a few Final Fantasy XIV videos that have come out on this channel. So I figured I'd take this time to give you guys a short summary of what's happening with this channel, and a little bit of what's going on uh, with me in general. So obviously, I have since moved on to Final Fantasy. Ever since I finished playing ESO, quit ESO, I was floating around a couple of single-player games, but a couple of friends picked up Final Fantasy and convinced me to play it. So now I'm a Final Fantasy main, basically. So I picked up Final Fantasy instead of ESO. At this point, those friends and I have pretty much set up a regular static where we're progressing through the Coils of Bahamut. And the plan is to go through all the Savage raids in chronological order in terms of release date. So for example, after we finish Bahamut, we're going to be moving on to Alexander, which was released in Heavensward, and from Alexander, Omega, and then Omega to Eden. We might do some extreme trials along the way. We really haven't talked too much about what we're going to do after, or to say between the Savage raids. A couple of friends and I in that static have been doing the extreme trials from time to time whenever we see them in the party finder, but we haven't really set up a separate time or date to do that just yet. But beyond that, that's pretty much how things are going to go for this channel in terms of Final Fantasy XIV content. This is really just going to be a repository now for the Twitch streams that I'll be doing. So our static raids, Friday nights, 10 p.m. to around midnight-ish Eastern. So that'll be on Twitch, and then I'll post the VODs here once that is done. Usually it'll be the day after. So usually it'll be on a Saturday when I post out the full VOD. There might be some highlights from the VODs that I will obviously put into separate videos. For example, the one that you saw was the clear poll that we did of turn 5. That one deserved a highlight, so I made the highlight of that poll entirely. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going to happen with this channel right now. In terms of whether or not I'm going to be doing any sort of ESO content, no. ESO has pretty much lost me for the most part. I am not intending on going back to play ESO really at any point. One, because I'm perfectly fine with Final Fantasy, and two, I feel like I'd be a complete stranger now to ESO with all the changes that have been made. I am still in the ESO Academy Discord, but I'm really more taking on more moderator role, administrative role than an actual helping role, teaching role, so to speak. Yeah, I'm not planning on going back to ESO. At the same time, I'm not going to be making any content for Final Fantasy, just because there doesn't really seem to be a need for it. There's plenty of content creators. The game is very old at this point, so I don't feel like there's really any reason for me to make any content for Final Fantasy. And I'm kind of burnt out on making content anyways, and I just also don't have the time to do so. I'm getting to the point in my doctoral degree where I'm going to be doing my dissertation. And while that does mean I have more freedom because I won't be taking classes, I will still be TAing courses, and obviously there'll be the research component as well, so I will not necessarily have the time or the resources necessary to really devote myself to making content like I used to in ESO. That and builds in Final Fantasy are less complicated than they are in ESO. There's relatively less flexibility when it comes to like gear sets and stuff like that. So really, whatever I put out is going to be the exact same thing that every other, endgame content creator for Final Fantasy would put out. The figuring out what is the best in slot in Final Fantasy is very, very easy compared to in ESO. It's mostly the rotations that people are trying to figure out, especially with new patches, with the new level caps, with new abilities, things like that. And even then, it's relatively straightforward to figure out what the best rotation is going to be, unless it's something that's really weird and super complicated. So yeah, that's pretty much covers it for what's going to be happening with this channel. I am enjoying myself in Final Fantasy. Right now we're, I think, in the first 20-ish% through Shadowbringers, and From there, I'll probably be taking a look at doing some Party Finder Extreme Trials, obviously be doing the near raids, things like that, gearing out, doing all the relic quests, glamour, all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much covers it for this update. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.